Hi, welcome to our assembly for today. It's Monday. I hope you've had a really, really lovely weekend and done some exciting things. I hope you've been out and had some fresh air. I hope you spent some time with your family and just had a really nice time. So it's the second of our global goal weeks. So last week there was loads of exciting work in school, loads of things where we were thinking about how important the global goals were to us. And today in our assembly, I'm going to use another picture book, another book based on a true story, to have a look at Global Goal 7, which is affordable and clean energy. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a true story, or I'm going to read you a true story now. So let's share my page. Not that one. I want to get the right button. Here we go. Right, so we've got a story called The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind by William Kwamba and Brian Mehler. Okay, so this is our character in the story. You can see it's a film on Netflix as well, so if you're interested, you can watch the film, or you can ask mums and dads if they want to see it, because it's actually really interesting. So bear in mind when we read this is a true story. In a small village in Malawi, where people had no money for lights, nightfall came quickly and hurried poor farmers to bed. But for William, the darkness was best for dreaming. So no money for lights. Okay, so we're thinking about our other global goals, thinking about zero poverty, about no poverty. There we go. Oops, we've gone too many pages. Let's get to the right one. Here we go. He dreamed of building things and taking them apart, like the trucks with bottle cap wheels parked under his bed, and pieces of radios that he'd crack open and wonder, if I can hear the music, then where is the band? His grandpa's tales of magic also whispered in the pitch black of his room. Witch planes passed through the window while ghost dancers twirled around the room as if 100 men were inside their bodies. So he's kind of got some of the technological things. He's got the technical stuff like radios, like cars, but he's also got the stories that his family have told him about superstitions. At dawn in the fields, William scanned the maze rows for magical beings, then wondered as a truck rumbled past, how does the engine make it go? Pay attention to where you throw that hoe, his father shouted. You'll cut off your foot. So a hoe is like a big long stick with a big blade on the end of it, and you chop it into the ground, and it cuts the weeds up. But if, like I say, if you're not careful, particularly given the flip-flops that he's wearing, he could really hurt his foot if he's not paying attention. For all its power over dancers and flying things, magic couldn't bring the rain. Without water, the sun rose angry each morning and scorched the fields, turning the maize to dust. And without food, Malawi began to starve. Now remember, this is a true story. There was no rain at this point, and the sun was so hot, the land was so dry that the crops weren't growing and people didn't have enough food. It was called a famine. Okay, now it's not just hungry like it's nearly tea time and I want my tea. It's hungry because there has been nothing to eat. Okay. Soon William's father gathered the children and said, from now on, we eat only one meal per day. Make it last. In the evenings, they sat around the lantern and ate their handful, watching hungry people pass like spirits along the roads. So literally, they've got a handful of food. That's it. And that is their one meal for the day. Okay. Money also disappeared with the rain. Pepani, his father said, I'm sorry, you'll have to drop out of school. Now William stood on the road and watched the lucky students pass, alone with the monster in his belly and the lump in his throat. And for weeks he sulked under the mango tree until he remembered the library down the road, a gift from the Americans. Now, you guys don't have to pay to go to school. Mums and dads don't have to pay for you to go. All the grown-ups who work pay taxes, and that's how schools get funded. But in Malawi, you had to pay to go to school, and William couldn't go. His family couldn't afford it. It wasn't an automatic thing that happened. So he knew he would have no education. And you might think, yay, great, no school. But actually, he wants to learn. And after a while, you would be bored of just being stuck at home. And we know what that's like now. He found science books filled with brilliant pictures. With his English dictionary close by, William put together how engines moved those big trucks and how radios pulled their music from the sky. But the greatest picture of all was a machine taller than the tallest tree with blades like a fan. A giant pinwheel? Something to catch magic? Slowly he built the sentence, windmills can produce electricity and pump water. And we've all seen these wind turbines on the hills, haven't we? He closed his eyes and saw a windmill outside his home, pulling electricity from the breeze and bringing light to the dark valley. He's imagining what this might be like. He saw the machine drawing cool water from the ground, sending it gushing through the thirsty fields, turning the maize tall and green, even when farmers' prayers for rain went unanswered. This windmill was more than a machine, it was a weapon to fight hunger. Majetsi Amafefo, he whispered, I will build electric wind. I hope I'm pronouncing these things right. In the junkyard, pieces appeared like rusted treasures in the tall grass. A tractor fan, some pipe, and bearings and bolts that required every muscle to remove. Tonga, he'd shout to the birds and spiders, holding up his prize. But as William dragged his metals home, people called out, this boy is Misala. Only crazy people play with trash. So he's reusing some of the things that have been thrown away. That's quite clever, that is. He's making something new out of things that were rubbish. And we've talked a lot about recycling and reusing. After many weeks, William arranged his pieces in the dirt. A broken bicycle, rusted bottle caps, and plastic pipe. Even a small generator that powered a headlight on a bike. For 3 days, he bolted, banged, and tinkered, while chickens squawked and dogs barked and neighbours shook their heads saying, what's Misala doing now? His cousin Geoffrey and best friend Gilbert soon appeared. Mulibwanji, they greeted. Can we help with electric wind? Grab your pangas and follow me, he said, and took them into the forest. Together they swung their sharp blades into the trunks of blue gum trees, then hammered them together to make the tower. Standing atop, William shouted, bring it up! While the boys tugged and heaved. A crowd gathered below and gazed at this strange machine that now leaned and wobbled like a clumsy giraffe. Some giggled, others teased, but William waited for the winds. You can see it being pulled up. And if you've ever seen these things on the hillside, you have to wonder how those blades get up there because they're so big. Like always, it came. First a breeze, then a gusting gale. The tower swayed and the blades spun round. There they go, spinning in the wind. With sore hands, once slowed by hunger and darkness, William connected wires to a small bulb, which flickered at first, then surged as bright as the sun. Tonga, he shouted, I have made electric wind. He'd used the wind to power that bulb for the first time. That's amazing. Wachitabuino, a man yelled. Well done. As the doubters clapped and cheered, William knew he'd just begun. Light couldn't fill empty bellies, but another windmill could soak the dry ground, creating food where once there was none. Majetsi Amfebo, electric wind can feed my country, William thought. And that was the strongest magic of all. So, there we go. Now, I really, really love that book, not just for the story, because it's a true story about William, but also if you look at these illustrations, there's so many different media involved in this, and the use of collage and the way things have been cut out and arranged on the page. And even I was thinking as I was reading it, pages like this one, it just looks beautiful. It's really, really lovely to see a book that's not just lines on a page, it's so wonderfully presented. I really, really like this story. I hope you do too. So let's have a look at some of the true story behind it. So William Kamkwamba, who, if you remember, was one of the authors, was born in 1987 and grew up near the village of Wimby in central Malawi. And like many people in Malawi and the rest of sub-Saharan Africa, William's father, Triwell, was a farmer. The Kamkwambas grew a kind of white sweet corn called maize, which they had for every meal in the form of porridge called pronounced sema. To make extra money for clothes, medicine, and other things, they also raised tobacco to sell in the capital city. And because their only food came from the ground, any problems with the weather or changes in the price of seeds or fertilizer could cause them serious problems. And that's exactly what happened in 2001 and 2002. A severe drought killed most of the maize fields in Malawi, including those of William's father. And within several months, the entire country had run out of food and began to starve. It was a terrible thing. And that word that I used for it before was famine, a famine. William was eating only one meal a day. His parents and his 6 sisters, they started to lose weight. And at one point, his father even went temporarily blind because he was so poorly from hunger. So being hungry doesn't just affect your tummy. It means that all of the systems in your body don't work properly. So William's dad actually went temporarily blind because he was so hungry. The famine killed over 10,000 people in Malawi, including many in their village. So I think that's about the same number of people as we would have around Wincham. Okay, a lot of people with no money to pay for school fees because high school in Malawi isn't free. William had to drop out, but instead of sulking around, he began visiting a library that was started by the American government. And he found books on science, which he loved. Now, William didn't speak good English, so he used dictionaries to learn the words describing the pictures that intrigued him. And one of the pictures was a windmill. The word said windmills could produce electricity and pump water. Like most people in Malawi, William's parents had no electricity, and water could be used to feed his father's fields. And never again would they have to depend on the rain. I'm going to build a windmill, William thought. The pieces William used to build his windmill were a tractor fan, shock absorber, and the frame of a broken bike, missing a wheel. For blades, he melted plastic pipe over a fire and flattened them, then carved their shape with a saw. For a generator, he used a dynamo, which is a tiny bottle-shaped thing that produces electricity by turning magnets inside a coil of wire, something called electromagnetism. And when the wind blew, the blades acted like pedals and spun the tire, which turned the coils inside the dynamo and produced a current. And a wire from the dynamo reached down to William's room and powered a small light bulb. And he did this when he was 14 years old. Eventually, William used his windmill to charge a car battery, allowing him to power 4 light bulbs in his parents' house. But his dream of pumping water wasn't achieved until several years later, when he built his green machine, which pulled water from a small well near his home and fed his mother's garden, allowing her to grow vegetables all year round. So in 2007, William was discovered by some journalists and invited to speak at a TED Talk in Tanzania. He'd never been in an airplane or even seen the internet. Many people were moved by his story and gave money to help send him back to school and eventually install a solar-powered water pump that irrigated his father's fields, forever protecting them from hunger. Now, when this book was written, William was a student at Dartmouth College in New Hampshire in America. He was studying to be an engineer and was planning to return to Malawi to work on renewable energy for electricity and pumping water in villages. And there you can see him. That is the windmill that William made. There he is standing at the top of his windmill with the bits of the bike and the bits of the pipes that he made. It's pretty impressive stuff, isn't it? Right, let's stop sharing. Okay. And again, it's a story about the global goals. It's a true story. And that's the really, really cool thing about this. It's a true story. That actually happened. William's a real person. And he was able to innovate. He was able to do something that nobody else had done by using junk to create that windmill. Okay, so we've been thinking about climate action. But also, I think he is an inspirational person. I think William is absolutely amazing because he took a problem and instead of going, oh, this is awful, he solved the problem. He took what he knew, he took his learning and worked hard and solved his problem. So what problem might you solve? Maybe when you're 14, maybe when you're 44, who knows? but have a think about the problems and see what you can do to solve them. Have a lovely rest of the day, guys. Bye-bye.